Awesome. Thank you so much again, Laureen. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate, again, the flexibility, being that the meeting was pushed back a little bit, and also the fact that you guys are willing to listen to someone a little bit younger. I'm still only a rising sophomore at the University of Notre Dame.
Mhm.
Just finished my first year there, and I'm currently studying neuroscience and behavior on the pre-med track with
Mhm.
also a minor in business. So my main goal is med school, but I think neuroscience and behavior, I hope will give me kind of a unique perspective on, again, human behavior and cognition, kind of understanding a little bit about what they're thinking. I hope it'll help me in the future with patient interaction skills and also getting a little bit of a baseline in neurology potentially. And the business side of that track, I thought it would kind of just be helpful to know some of those skills for finance, accounting, marketing, etc., just because I feel like they could be applied to any career that I choose in the future, even if I decide maybe med school isn't the right path for me. But yeah, I really like the sciences. I've been enjoying my classes so far at the University of Notre Dame, and I'm really looking forward to my 3 more years there in the future. But the main thing that brings me to this meeting is I spent the past couple of months in um, Wanyange in the Jinja district of Uganda for the
Mm.
past um, since I've been home now since around August 5th. But
Okay.
from around May 31st until then, I spent my time in Jinja living with the Sisters of the Holy Cross in Bugembe, actually. So most of
Yeah.
the time I spent was in Wayangé, but I was staying with the sisters in Bugembe. It was about 10-minute drive. It was very close by. So the program that sent me to Jinja was called ND Bridge. It was a program that's available for students that had just finished their first year at Notre Dame. And the program sponsors about 120 students to different sites, both nationally and internationally. I'm from the United States of America, so by nationally, I mean around the country. And they usually split students about half and half between international and American sites. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to be sponsored to go to Jinja in Uganda, and Notre Dame has a very close connection with the Holy Cross priests, and the Holy Cross sisters, again, are part of the same order, and they overlap a lot in what they're doing. So I was, again, fortunate enough to have the opportunity to have an experience abroad, which was something I was really looking forward to. I've been living in America my entire life, and I haven't really had an opportunity in the past to fully immerse myself in a culture that was different than my own. So I wasn't really sure what to expect at first, but I was super excited about the opportunity and really, really looking forward to learning about another culture and another perspective on life. So I landed in Jinja in May, and I remember I was picked up from the airport by Sister Jane, who's a member of the Holy Cross Order, staying in Bugembe. And I was a little bit nervous at first staying with sisters in religious life because I hadn't really experienced that before. It was something new to me. I wasn't sure how devout they were, exactly, what to expect, if I would be spending most of my day in prayer, if, it'd be a serious type of environment. But I quickly found out that wasn't the case at all. I mean, the sisters were very religious. They went to daily mass. They were encouraged us to pray, but it never felt like a burden. The sisters were always super kind to us, super welcoming. They answered every question that we could have had, especially as we were just getting acclimated to the new climate, environment, people around us. And it was super, super helpful. Um, Most of the time that I spent in Jinja was volunteering. So the main part of ND Bridge program is volunteer work. So students are signing up for 8 weeks of full cultural immersion into whatever environment they're placed in, whether that be in the US or international. And that's the main aspect of the program. So for for my group, our volunteering was education based. So we were with St. Andrew's Primary School in Wanyange, and I was with a group of three other ND Bridge students as well. So I think I'm not exactly sure who was on the meeting the share out a couple of months ago, but Lily Mayfield was presenting a couple of months ago, I think in June, during our time there. And Lily was actually in the same pod as I was. So we were group mates. We had similar experiences, but her time was a little bit earlier on than my share out. So hopefully I'm able to bring a couple of unique things to the table. But in Wanyange, I was tasked with teaching primary five mathematics, primary two reading classes, an arts and crafts class in primary four, which was fun, and also physical education classes from primary one through primary six. And St. Andrews is a school that spans from 2-year-olds in nursery and baby class all the way up until standard seven, where you might have some students maybe age 16 or 17 that got a bit of a later start on their educational journey. So there's a super wide range of students there. But I guess the main thing that I was going to try and observe while I was teaching at St. Andrews, and I guess I should preface, so ND Bridge, the secondary aspect is research. So volunteering our time, for me, that was at St. Andrews Primary School as a teacher, but we were also supposed to develop and answer a research question over the course of the summer. So my research question, I initially wanted to tie into maybe public health or global health because that was something, that I'm interested in pursuing in the future for my career. So I was kind of going in at first to an educational environment, trying to find a way to find the intersection between education and public health. And we were spending so much time just trying to learn how to teach in a new place, a new environment, a new educational system that we were unfamiliar with, which proved to be a bit challenging at first. But we were given so much help by all the faculty and made so comfortable by the students that after a few weeks, we were able to settle in. Even with that being said, after I guess understanding the true responsibilities of a teacher, having a lesson plan, having to coordinate certain events, having to be there on time and show up punctual to my classes, and kind of all the responsibilities that we had, it seemed difficult for me to focus on something that wasn't education. So I ended up switching my research question or modifying it to explore how accessibility to supplementary educational resources affects educational growth and student performance on things like exams and in class in general. So by supplementary educational resources, I'm talking about what the students are using to assist their educational journeys that doesn't involve what the teachers are providing them in class. So again, one of the first things I noticed when I was there, even from observing classes all the way to teaching my own, was that the way that a lot of students were learning at St. Andrews was the teacher would write examples on the board and the students would copy them exactly as they're written in their notes. And the students also did exercises at the end of class, but there were very few questions asked in class. I asked about students' learning habits at home outside of the school building, and it seemed like a lot of them preferred to maybe watch cartoons on television or play with their friends when they're at home. So, and also the access to a computer at home was very minimal for all the students that I was teaching, or some access to the internet on educational grounds. So, and I guess being at a primary school, it's difficult to expect students going home and wanting to learn, especially if they're not under any inclination to. When I was in primary school, I really was more interested in playing with my friends, going to the park, etc. So it was a difficult thing to explore, but what I found was that students weren't given a super great opportunity to seek out answers to the questions that they had, and that had to do a little bit with the opportunities that were provided for them, whether that be inside the school building or outside. So my research ended off with a proposal to the school, just to set up a simple peer tutoring program. I thought it would be a great opportunity to have a little bit of mentorship between the younger and older students at the school, also to give students another opportunity to have their questions answered and kind of get a new get taught a subject from a new perspective or a new set of eyes. Um, I know there's plenty of standard six and or standard seven and primary six students very qualified to do so and help those students out. I also had the idea of maybe starting a computer lab at the school, although that would be a very expensive endeavor. It's very logistical, very technical, and would probably require a lot of external support as well. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can maybe be in communication with the sisters. Sister Catherine of the Holy Cross Order is the head teacher at St. Andrew's Primary School, and I'm hoping that maybe I could share my ideas with her sometime in the near future as well. Um, but yeah, my school experience in general was fantastic. All the students were curious about where I was from, about myself, about what I was interested in. They asked me a ton of great questions every day, whether that be a 7-year-old in primary two or a 14-year-old in primary seven. They all asked great questions to me, made me feel at home. The faculty was very supportive of me. They taught me how to teach coming from a background myself where I hadn't really been in an educational environment before and hadn't had that experience teaching. So it was definitely a great learning experience for me. And I'm just very grateful in general that I had the opportunity to be there. Um, Also, I was really hoping this would be a possibility, and it was, which I'm glad about, but I was able to explore a little bit of the nature and the beauty of of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. And it really didn't disappoint. We were able to go take a trip to Murchison Falls. It was stunning. There was a lot of great wildlife. The nature was beautiful. We saw elephants, giraffes. We didn't see the leopard. We saw a lion, though, which was really, really exciting. And we took a couple trips to Mabira Forest. We took trips to the main town center of Jinja a few times. And there was never one time when I was in the Jinja area where I felt like I wasn't welcomed and I wasn't supported. And again, the people just accepted me with open arms that I would have never guessed beforehand. And the sisters did more to us than we could ever repay them for. So it was a fantastic experience. If I still have time, maybe I can talk for 5 minutes about myself, if that's okay, about my interests outside of that. Sure. So one of my biggest interests outside of volunteering and education is in global health. I think that the mission of global health is just something that's, I think, formidable and works towards the common good. And really what we're focused on with global health is health as a fundamental human right, making sure that there's equity in health, that people have access to resources that will promote a good life, a good quality of life, and also positive health. And we're talking about health in a holistic sense. So whether that be physical, mental, or emotional health. Basically, our mission as a club at the university and also the organization is to promote those principles in a global scale. So a little bit of what I was doing at St. Andrews tied into a mental health side. Education, I think, is very tied into good mental health. It provides students with the skill set and the tools to be successful in their future, pursue a career path that they're interested in, and set a foundation for a good life ahead of them. So I was really excited about that part of my volunteer experience and about how I was able to hopefully just maybe improve a student's day or improve their learning and see how that could benefit them for a long period of time, even though it's something so minimal. So that was one thing that was exciting to me about going international, especially and being abroad, was to see how global health can take effect in person in a different environment that I'm used to, which was really cool. I've also picked up a position as the service chair for the Global Health Club this year at Notre Dame. So I'm hoping that I can start a few projects that would have a connection to global health, either nationally or, or internationally, and bring back some good ideas to the university. I'm also starting a position as a research assistant on campus with the Shori Lab. And what he's focused on is related to researching Mycobacterium, which is the same strain of bacteria that tuberculosis is a part of. And tuberculosis was the top leading cause of death by a disease before COVID-19 hit. Now it's still number two, but it still continues to be a huge problem across the globe and something that's concerning for a lot of people in various environments. So my project is going to be related on researching the disruption of biofilm formation, which is basically when aggregates of bacteria come together and perform like a protective layer that makes infections really hard to combat. So I'll be taking a position as a research assistant in that lab, trying to find new ways to treat bacterial infections and also potentially a treatment for tuberculosis. Finally, one big thing that I'm part of on campus is an organization that's called MercyWorks. MercyWorks is an organization that also sponsors students to various service sites around the South Bend and Mishawaka area. So it's an organization that focuses on service, reflection, and also that is faith-based. So my experience with MercyWorks so far, I've been sent to, it's called La Casa de Amistad. It's in South Bend, about 10 minutes south of campus, and it offers an educational environment as well for students from the preschool age to about middle school. And so that would be around primary 8 in America. And their mission is to provide a bilingual learning environment for Spanish speaking students. So speak both Spanish and English in school, and they're providing an education that takes place in both languages and also with a little bit of a Hispanic culture involved in their learning and environment. So I've had a fantastic time there. I was volunteering with the preschool as a teacher's assistant. It was a lot of fun. The kids always made my day a little bit better. I'll never forget there was a time when I was just getting acclimated to the environment, and my Spanish is okay, but it definitely needs some improvement. So when I heard the teachers and students mostly speaking in Spanish, I was a little bit intimidated at first, but there was a 4-year-old student, his name was Leonardo, and he invited me to build Play-Doh with him, which sounds very simple, but during that time, I had a conversation with him for about an hour, and I was trying to teach him how to mold shapes and objects with the Play-Doh while he was teaching me a little bit more about Spanish and helping me improve my Spanish speaking ability. And that was probably the most clear experience I've had of feeling accompaniment and feeling like we were walking together. And I don't really like the word service because I feel like it kind of implies a one-way interaction, like one person helping out another. But in reality, what I've discovered is service and volunteering and spending time with other people isn't really about what you're doing for them. It's about a mutual interaction. It's about learning from each other. It's about lifting each other's spirits and moving about your day side by side, eye to eye on a level ground. So I've really, really had a great experience with MercyWorks and tutoring there. I've also taken a position on their core team. So I'm hoping that, again, I can help improve the club, help keep it running, expand membership, and also engage a little bit more in the reflection and faith-based side of the organization. We meet about once every month to have discussions about our experience volunteering and about our faith and how it ties together. And by faith, I'm talking about a Christian faith for this organization. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm sorry if I went a little overtime there. It's really easy, I guess, to talk about yourself and things like that.
That's
So
okay. Thank you
yeah,
so
thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah, it was great to know so much about you. That's a lot to accomplish. I know Sister Dr. Reverend, I probably messed that up, said you would leave early. So yeah, if you have any questions for Griffin before you leave.
Yes, I'll just ask a question and then I will get the answer through the recording because I have to
Okay,
leave.
no
Okay.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so happy for Griffin for going to Uganda, meeting the kids and also just the people in Uganda and also Africa. So I was just wondering what differences, Griffin, you saw about life in Africa, the people, the culture, and also if there are any similarities that you discovered that you'd love to share? And another question would be, would you love to go back?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you so much. So yeah, I definitely saw honestly not as many differences as I would have anticipated, but there definitely were some. I just had such a great time with the sisters, and also I had a little bit of an American side with me, being with three other students from Notre Dame at all times. So we kind of brought a little bit of our habits with us, I guess. But I think one of the biggest differences that I think there were two big differences that I really enjoyed at between Uganda and America. One of them was that singing and dancing are a much bigger part of the culture in Uganda and East Africa in general. That's, I guess, from my experience there. But I mean, students at school would almost rather be dancing sometimes than playing a ball game or playing sports and PE. And I think in general, just when there were celebrations and when the community got together, maybe at final vows for Sister Catherine or the first vows of some seminarians in it was up in Fort Portal area, or maybe it was Kasese at the time. I forget exactly where he went, but there was a lot of dancing, a lot of joy, a lot of celebration, a lot of singing, and it took me a little bit step outside of my comfort zone before I was started jumping into the circle and dancing myself. But eventually, I just found it really, really fun. It was uplifting. I really enjoyed everyone's company, but it was just such a great experience and such a great time. People carried themselves through life so optimistically all the time. It was, even if they had very little, they're always willing to share what they did have with others. And they just kept such a great outlook on life about 90% of the time, which is something in America I think that people don't have as much. People tend to get caught in a loop and stressed out. And I don't know, I think there's just a little bit less time for celebration that people have, or maybe people just don't make room for it as much. But it was really just, I think, awesome to experience and great to be a part of. The other big difference that I thought there was I think, and it wasn't a big difference, it was a little subtle, but during Mass, I thought Mass in Uganda was a lot more energetic and a little bit more engaging than I have experienced in America. I just thought that the songs, there was a little bit more clapping and
Mhm.
um, swinging your arms, and especially when Hosanna came around. And it was just a lot more interactive, more engaging. I liked the music a little bit better in church. I tried to learn some of the songs as well. I struggled a little bit with the language difference, but I got a little bit of mentorship from those around me. So yeah, I just felt like I was really able to get in better touch with my faith while I was there. And that's probably a little bit to do with the religious life I was staying around as well. But I think the community as a whole was very involved with their faith and very, um, I guess it was an important part and something they valued in their lives.
Mhm.
Small differences, probably a little bit more mosquitoes. There's no washing machine, which I never experienced before, but hand washing my clothes made me very grateful for my machine. And it was also something that I think was good to learn and good to experience. And I think the temperature that we were very used to air conditioning in America, and I had experienced zero air conditioning, which was okay. It just was a little bit inside the house. It was a little bit hot at first, so it took my body a couple weeks to acclimate.
Mhm.
But yeah, those were the big differences, I would say, that I experienced.
Okay. Yeah, I
Mm.
guess the other question, thanks for those answers. Yeah, it was interesting to hear your perspective on the similarities and differences. I think the other question that she had was, would you do it again? And I had that as one of my questions. Would you come back again?
Yeah, sure. I definitely think if there was a good opportunity, I
Mm-hmm.
would come back again. The
Mm-hmm.
reason that we were able to go in the first place was because their trip was sponsored. I know it's very expensive to make the
Mm-hmm.
journeys, the flights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And as of now, I don't have the resources to sponsor my own trip.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that in the future, I would like to visit, whether that be just for maybe a week or for a longer period of time again.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great opportunity that presents itself. I'd be more than happy to go back.
Right.
Uh, I also think that I would want to find something a little bit more related to medicine and health if I did
Mm-hmm.
go back, just so that I could start um,
Mm-hmm.
narrowing down my trajectory a little bit towards the medical field and my career path. But
Mm-hmm.
to answer the question in simple terms is definitely I would love to go back at some point.
Mm-hmm. That's really great. I'm not sure, but I do know that there's lots of medical camps and
Mm.
yeah, that go on. Just not very sure of the specifics, but thank you so much. I think we have like about 8 minutes to go, so I will ask some questions as well. But I think it's great that you're trying to bridge your interests and at first, when you said you were doing your course, pre-med and also business, I was curious how those intersect, but you did explain how that is. And I think that's a very interesting path that you're taking. In addition to all these things that you're doing, the Massey Works and the RA position. Wow, you must be very busy. But yeah, I think these are really great things, and I see how they work towards your goal of global health. I found it interesting. I found the research question very interesting, and I was wondering, um, does it end there, or do you get an opportunity to maybe publish or blog or, whatever you found out? Because I think these are important things, and you put in your expertise, like you have really good recommendations. Do you get an opportunity to publish or publicize whatever you found out, and how do you do that?
Sure, definitely. We do, I think, get an opportunity to keep exploring and to keep pushing forward. I don't know if it would be publishing in a traditional sense, as in
Mm-hmm.
maybe a scientific bench work or research that I
Right.
maybe in the Shorey lab, but
Mm-hmm.
the ND Bridge program does have research awards, and they take place in September. So I don't know yet whether my research was good enough or maybe I
Mm-hmm.
was edged out a little bit by some of the other students. But during those awards, the top maybe 5 to 10 projects are recognized and
Mm-hmm.
also provided with additional funding so
Mm-hmm.
that they could keep pursuing their research in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
Mm-hmm.
And that funding could be allocated to any cause that maybe you're looking to or you're proposing. So
Mm-hmm.
my research, I decided to do a site-specific proposal.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few project options we were given. We were either given the option to write a long paper,
Mm-hmm.
create original artwork, create a photo slideshow. Um, there was a podcast or a site-specific proposal. I
Mm-hmm.
chose the last option just because I think my question definitely gives away to something that I can propose that would maybe solve the problem or
Mm-hmm.
improve the school and the education system just a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully enough to boost students' education. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really hoping that maybe I have a chance that my research is recognized at that award ceremony,
Mm-hmm.
and that money I could use towards my proposal, towards helping out the school,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even funding the start of a computer lab there, which would be
Mm-hmm.
really amazing, especially because that's something that's really financially difficult for a lot of places.
Right.
And I think peer tutoring is something that's a little bit easier to incorporate, especially at St. Andrews. They have their timetable that's already built in for clubs during the week,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice because there won't have to be too much manipulation. But yeah, I'm hoping that I can stay in touch with Sister Catherine, who's the headmaster at St. Andrews, and
Mm-hmm.
talk with her, see how things are going, maybe
Mm-hmm.
pitch some ideas, have her pitch back to me certain
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and just
Right.
being maybe a back and forth about
Mm-hmm.
how the school's going and share information with each other, and maybe hopefully in the future we're able to make some of those changes happen.
Mm-hmm.
St. Andrews or maybe even somewhere else. It
Yeah.
just really depends.
Yeah. We have a couple more minutes to go, and I had this question. Not really a question, but now that you've been to Uganda, you've been to the East African region. Excuse me. What would be your advice to future ND Bridge students? What was maybe two, three things that you would tell them?
Sure. I think in general, my advice is to, I think, go into the experience with an open mind, an open heart,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and open arms, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Think ND Bridge is challenging in the fact that you really don't know exactly what you're going to get or what to expect, especially
Yes.
going internationally.
Mm-hmm.
We do get a preview about our site, but it's not very in depth.
Mm-hmm.
We meet with our site supervisors beforehand one time, but it's also really hard to get a good impression on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier when you're actually in person,
Mm-hmm.
talking face to face with people. So I think my first piece of advice is to go into the experience with an open mind, to not really set expectations, but to really just, when you get there, get a good sense of your environment, about what the expectations are, and to
Mm-hmm.
move forward again with as also kind of a sense of being grateful for the opportunity and for what you have. And even when it gets challenging at first, to keep persevering, and eventually everyone will settle in. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess, yeah, that's part of my second piece of advice would be that at first it's difficult because you're acclimating to a new environment, it's a new experience. Orientations can be varying levels of, I guess, comprehensiveness. So sometimes you're kind of just thrown into the experience and you have to figure things out for yourself. But it's really helpful to communicate with the people around you, to not close yourself off, but to take a step forward and push yourself out of your comfort zone, and
Mm-hmm.
initiate those interactions and
Mm-hmm.
really just be, I don't know, just open to talking with others and looking to build relationships with the people around you. So I think building strong relationships was the thing that pushed me through the
Mm-hmm.
experience
Mm-hmm.
and not really have too many challenges or complaints. And those relationships also, I really hope will last me a long time, and be people that I'm staying connected with for kind of indefinitely, for as long as I have access to WhatsApp or my phone. And yeah, I think those are the main things that I would say.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for creating time to meet with us and sharing your experience. And hopefully this might be helpful to a future Indie Bridge person who will
Mm.
be going to Uganda or a different country. And we're glad that you did have an amazing time. And you also did something apart from being a researcher or a volunteer, and you got to experience Uganda a little bit. So I